Okay, cool. Okay. Hello everyone, it's Dom here from eSports News UK. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to be looking at the ESL League of Legends UK final, which is happening in 2 Sundays' time. And I'm joined by some special guests today. We've got 2 players from the teams in the final, MnM Gaming and Team XENEX. And we've also got an expert on board who I'm sure you'll know from the UK scene. So I'll let you guys introduce yourselves, starting with yourself, Rifty.
Hello, my name's Rifty and I play top lane for MnM. Been around for ages, so if you don't know me by now, I'm worried.
I'm Prosfair, play support for Team XENEX. I've been around a bit less longer than Rifty and I've been on much worse teams, so you probably don't know who I am, but yeah.
We all know you are Prosfair. Come on, don't shoot yourself down like that, mate.
And I'm Fern, or Furndog, coach of G2 Vodafone currently, but former coach of various different UK teams, UK orgs, TCA, XL, Perilous Void. But yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, listen. Thanks very much for joining us again today, guys. I wanted to start by sort of looking back on the split really so far before we get into the final, and maybe just sort of like analysing how the scene's changed. We've had some new teams come in like Enclave, XENEX, Cyclone. It's the first time that they've been in the Premiership. How did you guys find this split this year compared to other splits?
I think at the start of the split, I actually thought the competition would be quite low due to the new orgs. However, I was quite surprised. I think the level of parity and competition was higher than potentially it has been before.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a surprise for me because I thought there weren't going to be that many good teams, but I think a lot of teams have stepped up with infrastructure. So they took a lot of relatively unknown players and created some quite solid teams.
Yeah.
It's been quite surprising how the lower tier teams sort of stepped it up. Even, what was it, the bottom 4 teams, even though, well, they're bottom 4 on the UK scene, they still gave a fairly good showing. Which was quite surprising, actually. Like, outside of Pariah, I think every team won and did something.
Yeah, every team won a game, and there was a lot of draws between 6 to 4, 7 to 4, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely think that the teams that weren't expected to do well did much better than were previously expected. I feel like over the course of the whole Premiership, I think there was players that have maybe been on previous teams in past seasons that people kind of counted out as what they consider good players or whatever, but actually showed a higher level of performance on their current team. Maybe that's coaching, maybe that's more work put in, but overall, I think they definitely stepped up.
Yeah. And for you guys, like, are the teams that are in the finals, are they the teams you expected? Because for me, XL came incredibly close, and sort of, I know they needed a few results to go their way, I think, on the last day, but are these the 2 teams you sort of expected? I think for me personally, XENEX has surprised me. It came out of nowhere, but it's got some good players on its roster. So do you think there's been any like major upsets this split?
I don't think so much upsets, unless you count the middle tier teams drawing a lot. There hasn't been many wins where a team is 2-0'd that I didn't expect. Although I will say I wasn't expecting to be in the final. Honestly, at the start of the split, I counted us as a top 4 team. And I thought Choke would be qualify as well. So I thought the top 4 teams would be MnM first, and then the sort of 2nd to 4th teams would be ourselves, Choke and XL. So finding ourselves sort of at the top is, I guess, a pleasant surprise, but I don't think anyone could have predicted that we sort of meshed this well as a unit.
Yeah, I'd 100% agree with Ross. I think the top, in terms of the overall standard, I think it was somewhat where it was meant to be or where it was predicted, but there is kind of slight disparity between where the bottom 4 teams could finish within that 4 and where the top 4 teams could have finished within the top 4. I think lots of the teams managed, even from the lower end of the scale, managed to take games off those top teams, though, to get teams to games off XENEX, teams to games, not so much XENEX, but MnM and XL especially. Lots of teams took games off those teams that probably weren't expected to do so.
Yeah, sure. Anything you wanted to add there, Rifty?
No, it's basically all been said, to be honest. Like, coming into this, I don't really think anyone rated XENEX as the top 2 team, mainly because pretty unknown. Like, not completely unknown, but the players not major in the UK at least. I mean, the mid laner is fairly new to it, to my knowledge. You know, like a lot of your players were sort of you can't comment on it because we didn't have much information about you guys. You know what I mean?
I mean, if you look at, I think all of the UK players played in last split of ESL and Masters, and we came. So me and Sankas won PV. We came 7th/8th last split of ESL, and Inax and Shikai both came 6th/5th. So a team of sort of players who've all bottom 4 last split placing so highly top this split was a surprise to us. And Backlund obviously is completely unknown. He's never played competitive before, so I think it was hard to call.
It was really hard to call. Like, literally off the top of my head, the only 2 teams I would have put into it would have been us and XL, you know, just because, well, I know us, and XL, well, you know the players, they've been around for ages, you know the strengths and weaknesses, and they've all been sort of, you know, top 3, top 4 contenders for a long time, you know? And the general team roster in this ESL was, on paper at least at the beginning, kind of weak, to be honest. You know, a lot of the teams like GLB and Pariah, they were sort of the lower tier players, so competition didn't look as fierce this season round, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
You guys mentioned a few players there, and I was going to talk about that as well. Was there any players that like maybe surprised you this split, or any players that really stood out? Because there was a couple. We did a profile on a guy called Demo, who's the jungler for Cyclone, and I think Cyclone may have under-delivered a little bit. But there's a few players like that I took note of. You know, is there anyone? Maybe beside the 2 teams that are in the final, was there any other players that caught your eye?
I think there are players on each team who stepped up. Maybe they didn't stand out so much in the overall scene, but they definitely performed for their teams. I think Orcs has stepped up massively for XL. In terms of just personal improvement, I think he's gone from being, in terms of his individual play, he's increased quite a lot this past split. You look at certain teams like Enclave, I think the bot lane of Enclave's done a really good job in terms of Reclamation, the support, is sort of, he used to be the analyst for Perilous. He sort of wasn't up to being a player in his like sort of opinion, but he's really stepped up in terms of taking his shot calling and macro knowledge to helping them do that. And then Jakamaka, their AD as well, hasn't played since the first split of ESL, to the best of my knowledge, and I think he showed a higher level of sort of mechanics than I expected from someone who's just not been in the scene for so long. So I could probably list players like that from every roster, but it would take quite a while. So
a couple of names maybe from you guys, Josh.
Okay. I feel, well, I've got more experience or more knowledge with the whole XL side of things because I was part of the process of actually creating that roster. And it was one of the team around me and myself's decision to bring Joe and Orcs back, Joe Charism and Orcs. And like Prosfair said, I know this is somewhat repeating his point, but Orcs was one of the players that, to me, between the whole Last Remedy drama last season, when Orcs was kind of brought in as a last-minute replacement for Billy, he in very short time learned a huge amount and took it on. And really stepped up as someone who can perform as a support on one of the top teams. And for me, like I said, he's one of the most improved in the UK scene of the UK players that I've seen.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Rifty, any from yourself? Maybe any like other top laners that you came up against and thought or surprised you?
Not particularly, but like. Outside of the top 2 teams, I really don't think many of the players were incredibly surprising. The easiest one, at least to me, that has been surprising is XENEX's mid laner, Backlund. You know, just because no information on this guy, he came into it and he's played pretty well. You know, I've been quite impressed with the guy. So I think out of anyone in this ESL Premiership, he's been the one that's been most interesting.
Yeah, sure. So, like, looking forward to the final then, guys. I I guess we'll start with you, Rifty. It's interesting for you because obviously you've been part of MnM, and MnM won last split, but then there was problems. I mean, I think you left just before, right? And went to another team. They won.
Yeah, something like that. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, you were in the final with them, weren't you? I think for
Epiphany Bolt, right?
Epiphany Bolt, who
the world's worst designed T-shirts, yeah.
Yeah. The Sillet Bang
That's
T-shirts or whatever.
That's all I take
Bang
back
and
from
Epiphany
that,
Bolt comes
seriously.
second, doesn't it?
When we got those out of the box in the team room with all the other teams there and such, we were rocking it.
Unlucky. But you made it to finals anyway.
You made it to finals, but I think for you, like, it'd be quite a big deal to win, right? Because you missed out on winning with MnM, and for me,
come
it
second
was
twice, right, Rifty?
Yeah,
Sorry,
I mean, like,
Dom.
for me, it was a bit disappointing because with what happened to MnM, if people viewing don't know, MnM had some problems with the roster changed at the last minute before they went into Challenger Series. It's quite a long story, Challenger Series qualifiers, and they had a bit of a mixed team in the end. And is this something you've spoken to the guys about, Rifty? If you go through this time, is the roster going to be the same?
Back when that Challenger Series stuff was going on, that was interesting at least, you know. And then obviously this split, we've had an interesting amount of roster issues, you know.
Yeah.
Like we got players in the LVP and subs and all this crazy stuff.
It seems to me, Rifty, that, well, on terms of an outside point of view, that you're probably the one on the roster that's possibly most, or should be most motivated to win the Prem, because you were there with Manolite, right, and you came second, and then you were there with Epiphany Bolt and you came second, and
yeah, that was
hopefully
fun.
you can turn that around, right?
Yeah, hopefully, I suppose, you know. When we were on Manolite going against Renegades, that was interesting. I think that series just evolved more into fun than actually trying to win.
Okay.
Like, all I remember is playing Rammers and we were just screaming, going, "Go fast," you know. I don't think that one was particularly the most serious competitive game I've ever played, but yeah, that was good.
It was.
And the Epiphany Bolt one was interesting as well. I was very close.
Yeah.
I think, like, with the first one as well, when the Renegades won, it was a bit weird because I wasn't there. I missed that one, unfortunately. But I've been told when they won, they weren't even like that bothered. They didn't hardly lifted the trophy, and I think
they just wanted to go home. Like,
Yeah.
it was the same as to do with ESL. You know, they were pretty interesting people. Let's go with that.
Oh, okay.
Well, anyone that saw the ESL when it was, I think we were under Manolite then, or MnM, one or the other.
Versus Renegades, you were under Manolite, right?
Yeah, well, you can see the interviews that they gave. You know what I mean? Like that was, that's why I'm just going to stick with interesting people.
Okay.
Like, I think that's the easiest way of it devolving into anything else. You know?
Yeah. And
in my opinion, it's definitely come a long way since then, though, right? Like the last Prem finals, obviously I had experience with. That's the actually only Premiership finals I've had experience with up till now. ESL treated the staff, the players, people to do with all the teams super good. From my experience, anyway. Other people might share a different experience, but I thought the stage, the hotel, everything was really good surrounding the whole thing.
I think it was quite nice. It was surprising actually coming from ESL, but yeah, I think they really invested a lot into it. It was really nice. Like, I'm kind of disappointed. I don't think it was as big as they wanted it to be, but I think it was fucking amazing. That was probably one of my favourite lands to have gone to.
Yeah.
Like the hotel was nice, the stage was nice, the host was nice, everything was set up pretty well, you know.
Yeah.
No, definitely agree.
I wish there was a bit more hype between the teams, you know, but that was, that goes back to interesting players, really.
Yeah, well, this is what I'm trying to do, you know. I guess I had this idea after our charity stream on the weekend. Like, for those of you watching who don't know, eSports News UK, we did a charity stream, and you guys took part, right? Rifty, Prosfair, you did take part, didn't you? You played against Chin, I think.
Yeah, I did. I went to Chin.
So I was talking to the team and we thought, why not do some more streams, you know? So you guys are one of the first sort of live discussion shows we've got on. We'll put it up on YouTube afterwards as well. But I guess Prosfair, and moving to you and XENEX, what are your thoughts going into the final? You know, you guys have had a really good split, right? You've won every game, is that correct? Have you drawn one?
We drew with XL 1-1
That's it, yeah.
in week 4, but apart from that, we've won every game.
What are your thoughts going into the final? Obviously, you're going to, I guess, respect MnM, considering they've won before, but what would winning mean for you guys?
I mean, I can't speak for everyone on the team, but I think we have a lot of quite inexperienced players. Most people have been playing, I mean, Sankas, Inax, and Shikari, I think, all have one previous split of ESL experience, whereas I have been playing in the scene since I-54, which is obviously quite a bit longer. But even similarly, I've never really placed that highly. The impression I get that people see of me is that I'm sort of always on the worst team that you have to respect. Sort of like the best of the bad teams is the sort of crux I seem to hover around, where the good teams sort of have to take you seriously, but they'll always win. Is pretty much the story of like my career. So it's quite strange to be on a team that wins all the time.
It must be nice to be dominating the league like this. Then you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a really weird transition because I've never had to sort of struggle with. I quite like playing on teams because there's a lot of adversity you sort of have to face in terms of, especially when you're on losing teams. People, you get quite a lot of conflict, especially internally, where people aren't happy about losing. Whereas when you're on a winning team, you're faced with quite different approaches that you have to sort of check yourself to make sure you're not getting overconfident and cocky, which I think we did actually show signs of in, I think it was week 2 or week 3 against GLB, where we sort of drafted very poorly and very disrespectfully, and then that was a real wake-up call for us. So it would definitely mean a lot because it would sort of be a sign of it, some achievement to show the sort of 2 years I've been putting into playing competitively when I haven't really had anything to show for it before now. But
I think that's somewhat a story of XENEX too. I think it's got a lot of players that have been in Prosfair's position that have been on teams in the past. Obviously, Backland's the one that was unknown before this split, but have been on teams that haven't quite made it or have been in the middle of the pack, and as a result, you get somewhat discounted as a player or as being able to win things with regards to the UK scene. And I think there's players like Shikari, players like Sankas, players like Prosfair himself, even Inax. All 4 of these players have been on teams in the UK that haven't quite been to anywhere near the top or to the top. And I think that what they've achieved here, even if whatever the result in the final, is something that is quite commendable with regards to the UK scene and proving people wrong or proving the thought process is wrong, that if you actually get these players out of the lower teams and you work hard together, you can actually make something out of it. And I think that's really important for the whole XENEX story.
And for me as well, like, I've got no bad bones obviously about Renegades. They've done well and became misfits and are in the LCS now, but it is nice to see 2 UK org teams fighting it out, you know, rather than an outsider, because I felt a bit sorry for Manolite when they played against Renegades, because Renegades were technically an NA org, right, and trying to get into the EU Challenger Series with it. So it's nice this time. I feel like it's quite evenly matched going into this final. So yeah, yep. just going back, guys. You both mentioned your performances slightly, but maybe starting with you, Rifty, maybe you could reflect on your performances this split. Have you learned anything that you've taken into the final? How was it for you? How are you happy with your performances?
I think the answer to that's pretty obvious. Let's be honest. Like the roster issues that we've been having all season have sort of caused a lot of issues. Let's say, yeah, definitely end up giving us a subpar performance. I mean, we only just ended up making top 2, you know. Not particularly great, you know.
But do you have a confirmed roster? Or I understand if you're not able to reveal it, obviously, because you've got a rival sitting in this chat with you. But
No, our roster is the roster we're using currently.
Oh, it is. Okay.
It is, right?
That is our roster. You know, we had to go through hell and back to end up getting a finalised roster. Let's say that.
But you've now got people playing in the right roles and things.
Yeah, people are playing in the right roles. We don't have
Okay.
Luke on AD carry and all that stuff. As fun as that was, you know.
Yeah.
Oh.
Especially with 10 bans coming in, I guess that makes it even worse when someone's playing off role. And in a competitive game, and there's 10 bans, that you can focus on that person that can't play any champions, their first time in champions.
I
in
don't even
competitive
think
games.
you need to devote bans to them. You know they're going to do
not.
poorly anyway. It's just like, okay, we can forget that role. They don't exist anymore.
Okay.
Let's ban out one of the other players. But yeah, like it was. Yeah, this split has been an interesting one to say the very least.
Well, you're in the final, you know, so you must have been doing something right. So, Prosfair, maybe over to you. Like, I know before in our sound check you said don't mention the coaching, Dom, but you had some coaching from LS, you know, and I thought, you know, you got some hard lessons, made some little mistakes, but now listen, because the game after that, you played really, really well. The match after that. So was there anything you took from it straight away, or is it too black and white for me to say that?
No, you can't. I don't think you can. First of all, solo queue and fives are two completely different things, especially for support. I think it's the role that changes the most from competitive to solo queue, and also I think I took like the motivation from it afterwards. I remember after the session I felt quite like mentally and physically exhausted, but I was quite motivated to improve. But the session definitely had no impact on my play. You know, I don't think you can take something from a coaching session immediately to impact your play. It's going to take like a week or two, or maybe even longer, to actually change, because you're going to have to break down and rebuild certain play habits.
Yeah. Do you feel you've improved this split?
I think I've just become... I said this in the coaching session, but I've always sort of hovered Diamond 1, and then maybe every month or so maybe more like 1 in every 4 months, I'll hit like 300 League Points Master, hover it for a couple of weeks, and then drop to Diamond 1. It usually coincides with when I'm very busy with university work and stuff. So I think it shows I can if I have the time. But looking back, I don't discipline myself with champion pools and playing the strongest champions. I've always had the attitude that playing the like meta champs in solo queue is sort of very sort of try hard, and you know, I don't like playing champions that are overpowered to win, but then that attitude is just stupid, because in a competitive sense you just want to give yourself the best chance. So with a sort of change of mentality, and I've just been disciplining myself more, because I'm in third year of university now, so I have even less time, so I can't faff around with the limited solo queue games I get. So I think I've improved, but it's more of a change of approach than individual skill, I think.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, mate, sorry Dom, but
go for it.
You've got you got 2 players that were coached by LS, didn't you? I think the mid was as well.
Yeah, he was coached before he joined the team. Yeah.
And like, I'm not trying to meme or anything like that, but if we're looking at it, you've been on bottom tier teams pretty much in the UK scene, period, right?
Well, it was XL, MnM, and then PV, I think.
Yeah, they're sort of not really in the contention, you know?
Yes, yeah.
And now this split, you are top of the board. You are dominating, so you must have improved. You know what I mean? You are doing a good job with it, mate. You know, I'm not saying that's the coaching specifically or anything like that, but clearly you're doing something right, mate, because you're at the top of it, you know?
I mean, just to jump in on that point, I think I was I-56 when we could have won it, because it was quite a weak LAN, and the only team that turned up really was the sort of choke mix, which was, I think, Numlocked, Haddo, Chewed Up. God, I'm trying to... Charlie T, probably.
You lost to Haddo, mate. I'm just disappointed in you, man. Like, what is this? Come on.
They were just like a ragtag team, like not a proper team, and we should have really beat them. And then we had Plex sub in for us that LAN, and he was doing the shot calling, and then he left. And it was after that, I-56, I realised why... Because I'd never decided to be a shot caller, I just sort of led that to other people, and it was at that point I realised, like, if I actually want to win, why am I leaving, you know, pick and ban, draft, shot calling to other people to do and just hoping to get carried? So I think it's been a long road of improvement, but I think, like, the last year of effort putting into sort of turning into actual proper team leader, shot caller, has sort of finally paid off, because I think I'm definitely the weakest individual player on XENEX, but I make up for it by providing sort of the
shot calling
or the
aspect.
other
I think-
factors. Yes.
I think that's super important, though, with regards to also to mention about XENEX. I'm not sure about the input with MnM necessarily over the last bit, but to my knowledge, right, I know you've got Daruk or Greasy.meet helping you now or briefly in the run up to final, but prior to that, you've had no coach all split, right? So
we've had like 2 sessions with someone, but
yeah,
not really. I've pretty much been
I
coaching
did
the
a
team as
session
well.
with you guys like prior to the split starting, right? When you kind of got together. But generically, on a weekly basis, in your scrims, in everything, it's just been you guys teaching each other and teaching yourself, and I think that's super important to highlight with regards to your improvement. It's all come from kind of your intrinsic motivation and hard work to get there, as opposed to someone putting a huge amount of input into you, which has made you grow as a team.
Is this your first final at a LAN, Prosfair?
Yes, I've never come top in ESL. My ESL splits are quite tragic if you look at them. But I think I got what was it? I got kicked off. I helped XL qualify as an ADC, and then had to role swap because our support quit, and then got kicked as the split started. So I didn't play in the first split of ESL or the second, and then I joined MnM and we came 7th, and we only beat FM, and then played on PV and came 7th/8th, and then I think this is the 5th split where sort of finally happened, if I'm remembering correctly.
Cool. And how are you feeling going into the final? Because I was thinking this, I know this is a bit weird to me, but you know me, my weird puns and everything. If you do get stage fright, you could always swap places with your brother, right?
Yeah, that's God. That joke's been told to me quite a few times now, actually. But yeah, people love to like go on the twin thing. I mean, I don't know if that might have a massive impact on, say, our macro play or anything. But I've played on stage at a few LANs before, like Insomnia's.
Yeah.
And also at the Red Bull.
Oh yeah.
Finals.
I wouldn't even qualify that as a tournament.
Well,
That was so poorly
a
run.
show match, pretty much. Yeah.
Like, that should have been a best of 3.
Yeah.
It was best of
Rocket
1,
League,
wasn't it?
Hearthstone, all of those games being like best of 3s, best of 5s, and then they get to League, they're like an hour behind, and they're like,
Best of 1.
we can't be asked anymore. Best of 1, you know, like.
I mean, at that
Best
point,
of
like
one,
you'd already won the trip to Japan anyway. Like the game was meaningless.
Yeah, the game was. Well, it was just for 500 quid.
Yeah.
Like,
Was it the top
which
the
I'm not
finalists
complaining,
then?
but like it was. There was 5 games, so 5 teams, players, whatever you want to call it. It
For
was
different
League,
games, yeah.
Rocket League, Hearthstone, Project Cars,
Street Fighter.
Street Fighter.
Yeah.
And the region that won the majority, so 3 out of 5, all of those players, all of them, would go to Japan. And then if you won your individual game, the players would get 500 quid each, which is surprisingly better than most LANs and events I've been to, Insomnia and all that. You know, like I've never won a LAN and been paid 500 quid in cash before I've left the door.
Yeah.
Cough, ESL.
The irony was just that Red Bull literally threw it in as like,
you know.
Red Bull literally threw it in as just like a sort of afterthought as well. That was the worst part. It was like, oh, by the way, just here's $2,500 for the winning team. Like, oh, cheers.
Yeah, fine.
Do whatever.
You know, like absolutely fine by that.
Was that good though, Prosfair? Did you so you went to Japan then?
No. The
We did.
Rifty's team was supporting. They were playing for the South, and we were playing for the North.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah.
at the point that it had happened, South had already won 3 games out of 4.
Oh,
So
got
even
you.
if we'd have won, their team still would have got the prize.
Even if we lost, we would still go to Japan. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, so you went then, Rifty? How was that?
Yeah,
Did you go with
I
the
went.
team?
yeah, I went with who was on
It was
the
a mixed
team?
team, wasn't it?
Plex,
Yeah, it
Toaster,
was
Charlie
Plex,
T.
Augustus, Charlie T, and Adam.
Right.
You know, which is all like nice guys. It was enjoyable in Japan. It was an experience.
Yeah.
I'll definitely say that much. Like, one of the nights we were all out. Were we all there? Yeah, I think all of us were there, and one of the players from like Street Fighter or something, you know. And there's these little bars, right? They're called Golden Guy bars, and they're hole in the wall bars. You know, we're talking like 5 people in the max. You know. Anyway, we ended up getting thrown out of one of them because someone was underage or something. You know, their
really
legal drinking limit was 20 in Japan, I
Yeah.
think. You know, and a lot of them weren't 20. You know.
Yeah.
We ended up getting kicked out, and we were walking through, and we were definitely in a shady area because there were a lot of people trying to pick you up for a little bit of nookie, you know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
To pick
You know,
up. To pick you up.
We were in a group. Obviously, it was 6 of us or so. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Bear in mind, you know, I'm not trying to come across as racist, but this was a scam done by black men in Japan, where what they would try and do is they'd try and, you know, convince you to go to their unmarked, undisclosed, off the street bar. You
Oh
know?
my goodness. So what did
And
you
you
say
would
to him, you lot?
Well, we went through
Yeah,
like
did you jump on that offer, dude?
we went right in there. We went right in there.
Sounds
We had
pretty good.
fun. No, obvious reasons we turned them down. Me and Adam sort of pissed about with one of the guys for a bit, pretending that we'd go with him. And the other guys got kind of scared and just left us. Like, they thought we were going to go into this unmarked, undisclosed bar with this random black man that we met on the street, you know?
Oh my goodness.
So they ended up legging it, and me and Adam were just left there like, where'd they go, you know?
Bloody
But
hell, that's-
overall, Japan was, yeah, it was aside from that, you know, it was a beautiful country. Very
Yeah.
interesting stuff, you know?
It sounds like it was a few moments away from being a big news story for eSports.
Yeah.
News
Oh yeah,
UK.
that would, that would have ended up, you know, UK and Rifty have been
I think that would have been
strangled
one of the
to death.
BBC too, right?
Anyway, we're digressing massively here, guys. I just want to.
It's no fun if we don't digress,
That's
you
true.
know. Like,
That's true.
That's the point of a talk
I-
show.
That is true.
unless you want us to sit here and just be like, you know, Prosfair, I'm going to take you down, mate, you know, and all that, you know, like.
This is what I said beforehand, because originally we were going to get Furndog and I, and then one player, and then the other player. Because I was thinking to myself, I don't want it to be like a boxing press conference. Do you know what I mean? Where they end up talking over each other. The tables, okay, there won't be tables that will go flying, but it just descends into comedy, you know. But on that note, though, I did want to ask about your thoughts on the opposition. So, Rifty, if we start with you, what are your thoughts on XENEX? You've mentioned it, but your thoughts specifically going into the final. It's difficult to answer this question because Prosfair's here, so you can't obviously give away strats.
No, there's no strategies. Like, you want the thoughts on the opposition and stuff. Like, at the end of the day, you know, obviously we'll be going into it. We're not going to sit there and underestimate them. You know, they've finished top of the league on this. You know, so there's no reason to underestimate them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, we've all got personal opinions and convictions, and like I said before, you know, a lot of the players on XENEX, or not a lot of the players, but you know, they've either been bottom of the league players for a while, or just completely unknown, you know. So in many ways, it's hard to respect what you don't really have much of an opinion about, you know, especially like I said before, the mid laner. The mid laner's given some impressive showings, but I've yet to really see him against teams that I would personally rate. You know, a lot of it's been against sort of the lower tier teams, you know, which is, I think, if anyone's being honest, a bit of a clown fiesta and not exactly a true display of whether or not you're good, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, obviously we'll be going into it against them. We'll respect them, of course, you know, we're not going to go into this to disrespect anyone, but we'll be looking to win either way, you know.
Yeah. I guess weirdly, you guys are the underdogs. MnM.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, we've had so many roster issues. I mean, even now that we've got the roster sorted, you know, a lot of us have got things of our own that we need to do. I can't think the word to save my life, but generally our time is limited, so we've barely even practiced ourselves, you know?
Yeah.
Like, we've had a rather manic schedule. We're hoping to get some practice in before we go to LAN, but it's been an interesting one, let's say that.
Yeah, and for you, Prosfair, what are your thoughts going into the final on MnM? You guys beat them 2-0 this split, right?
I mean, so obviously the first game they had Furion ADC, so it's not the most applicable to sort of, and then they've had roster changes since, and I mean the meta's changed completely as well. But I think just sort of the opposite of what Rifty just said. that their team, regardless of the struggles they've had and the sort of issues, that the players themselves are all players that usually sort of trend towards the top of the table. They have like finals experience and more LAN experience than us as a whole, which sort of LAN is a completely different thing to online. So I don't think we're going into disrespect them and obviously going to try and win, but I mean, my normal opinion on this is that you should try and play against yourself and not the opponent. And if we just simply try to play the best League of Legends we can, and it's enough, then it's enough. And if it's not, it's not. But that's the most we can do in the finals.
Yeah, we've just looking at the chat, Furion has said in all caps, "I'm insane on ADC. Nice flame."
Yeah, his Caitlyn was something else actually.
Yeah, he was insane.
I've never seen strategies like that. I don't think even Deft plays Caitlyn like that, to be honest.
Def doesn't play Caitlyn like that. I can guarantee you. Like, that's not up for debate. He does not play Caitlyn like Dongs.
Okay.
And Shikari said, also in caps, "Tell them what I said, Prosfair."
Oh, what did he say?
Who knows?
I'm having a look in our Skype chat. What did he say?
Yeah, everyone's been writing in block caps for some reason. Although we have got someone speaking in Spanish, I think, as well. I don't know.
Maybe my bad.
Yeah.
God damn it, Furndog. You're just ruining this.
People might have joined from something I retweeted, maybe. I don't know.
Nice. It doesn't matter if you can't find it, Prosfair, you can just...
Oh, he said easy 3-0. He just told me.
Okay.
Oh, well, this is what I was going to say.
Oh, well, he's on our side then. Easy 3-0 of you. It's nice to know he's got confidence in you guys, but...
Yeah.
Oh.
So,
Now we're getting the fighting talk.
In terms of score predictions then, guys, shall we go round? I'd love to hear some score predictions. I know Rifty and Prosfair, you'll be biased towards your own team, but it'll still be nice to see, if you think the other team can get some
going
wins.
into this believing we'll get 3-0'd, like it's been predicted, hasn't it? Like
Yes,
we're pretty much doomed.
Every match thinking you're going to lose, otherwise,
Yeah, of course.
So 3-0, is that what your prediction is, Rifty?
Yeah, we're going to get 3-0'd. Like, we are the clear underdogs in this. We haven't been coached by LS, like, it's just, there's no way that we can win,
But I can see a headline now, MnM Rifty, we're going to lose 3-0. Like, that doesn't strike your teammates up with confidence.
Yeah, my teammates know. Like, we've been trying to contact LS, but he's just been turning us down. Like
I've got to go, guys. It's pressing matters to attend to.
I'm sorry, mate. I'm sorry. I couldn't resist at least some.
It's fine. I'd do it if it was the other way around. So.
Well, I wouldn't need the coaching from LS, but it's fine. I understand the sentiment. No, obviously coming into this, I've got no idea what the predictions will be. Either way, I'm hoping it will be a good series. That's all I can say confidently.
Yeah. Prosfair, are you going for the 3-0?
I think 3-1 is my opinion of what will happen, but it's hard to call because I haven't seen MnM with Lawson in a while, and I think Lawson adds quite a lot to maybe sort of pressuring us in ways that we haven't really encountered much in our matches before, because it's obviously so the way I sort of see shot calling is that you shouldn't need your players to have any mechanical you're basically trying to remove the individual burden on your players with your macro play, so you remove the sort of micro requirements, but obviously Backlund still sort of pretty much smashes lane quite consistently against most of the UK mids. So I think someone like Larson, who probably has more experience on an individual level, is probably a match for him. Will be interesting to see, and I just agree. I just want to have some good games, some high quality games, because I think there's been quite a lot of draws and a lot of parity in the regular season, but maybe not so many high quality games. Even if they are draws, I think maybe GLB vs Bulldogs is a prime example of more of the clown fiestas.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned, that's a good point you raised there. I think the mid lane is going to be a really exciting matchup. And I don't want to say key to the final, key to the series, because I actually think if Larson and Backlund go up equally, then there might not be a lot of kills in the mid lane, if you see what I mean. Don't know if you guys agree.
I think from a neutral point of view, anyway, kind of seeing both the players play on quite a level. I've done some. I personally did some one-to-one stuff with Backland earlier on in this split, and I've seen a huge amount of Larson over the last couple of years. But I think that it's not necessarily the kill pressure that they create. It's going to be much more about how they're able to transition whatever leads they do get, what the slight leads they do get in the mid lane, to the side lanes, and how that can influence the map and the way the map opens up, and what they can do with their leads is going to be really vital in this series, I think, either way.
Yeah. Josh, I didn't ask you for your prediction. I guess your prediction will be the best one to get, right, as a neutral and someone who has more expertise in League than me, much more.
It won't be the completely biased ones, you know what I mean? Like,
The ones that hold like no value at all.
yeah, like our opinions don't matter here. I mean, we're the players, you know. Of course, we're going to sit here and say 3-0 will smash them. Like,
I honestly find it really pretty tough to call. I hope, in terms of a neutral spectating the game, that it's a 3-2 series and it's a fully long series, and we see some really, really good league throughout from the top two UK teams. Yeah. If I have to make a call one way or the other, based off experience, and I know the difficulties and how different being on stage can make you play, I feel that MnM can take the 3-2. But I don't think it's a clear, like a drawn conclusion. No way. I think it can go both ways. But honestly, the differences between playing at home in your comfortable environment where you're playing League all day and then you come into the game and it feels similar, to being on stage with you're creating pressure on yourself for people watching you. Even if people aren't particularly watching you, you're thinking about more things than you'd normally think about. The way you're sitting, the way you're looking, and you subconsciously think about a lot of things. And MnM have got a huge amount of experience with dealing with that. All of their players, to my experience, have been. I'm not sure about the AD carry actually, but all the rest have had huge amount of stage experience. But
I think he's had a little bit of experience in local lands and stuff, but not like major stuff.
So that stage factor or that kind of pressure factor on the day could really play a part in this series. But as long as it's good League of Legends, I honestly don't mind who wins. Yeah,
it'd be good at that point, guys in the chat, share your score predictions. Shikari said smash them in 20 lads. So his will probably be 3-0 as well. But I think, for me, at the last final between MnM and Epiphany Bolt, there was some guys, I think, from MnM doing some recording footage, and they came up to me just outside the venue just before the final and said, "Score, who's going to win, Dom?" And I went for MnM, and after the first game, MnM lost that quite badly. Epiphany Bolt did really well. I was thinking, my prediction is going to be a bit stupid here, but a lot of people around me said Epiphany Bolt will win. But I went with MnM, and for me, MnM, if they get... I know the roster's slightly different compared to last split, but there's still some players, similar players there, Larson, yourself, Rifty, and so on. I think if you've got the mentality right, I think MnM, when they've got their mentality right, and you mentioned this, Josh, I think for me, will be able to win this. But XENEX have done so well this split. It's it'd be interesting to see what happens. I'm going to go 3-2 XENEX, but I could be wrong. But I'd love it to go to a 5-game series,
Well, I hate to say it, Dom, but I hope you're wrong, mate. I'm not going to sit here and agree with you on that one, mate. I hope you're wrong.
Yeah, no, and
obviously I can't blame you for it.
I'm not supporting one team over the other, but if I had to make a prediction, that's what I'd go for. But it's going to be close. Also, guys, it was quite a good announcement from ESL this split. They've announced that Alex Machine Richardson is going to be hosting the finals, which I think is really great to get a big name on there as well. And they've tried a few new things this split. They've had Foxdrop casting some of the matches that I thought was great. Got some viewers. They had Intel Extreme Masters hosting the stream. We had 21,000 viewers the other week. So I know it was off the back of IEM, but it's still 21,000 viewers. What are your thoughts on Machine hosting this?
Just go
Anyone
first.
You don't care?
I've got no comment because I don't know who the guy
I was gonna
is.
say, I think he's a
I don't know who he is. That's not being rude or anything. I just don't know who he is.
he's,
No,
a,
I
he's,
can't
a CS,
like.
he's a CS:GO caster, isn't he?
Yeah.
That's why I don't know who he is. I do not watch
He's
CS:GO,
like
so I've
he
not got a clue.
hosts. I think he hosts majors, if I'm correct.
Yeah,
But I
that's
could be
right.
wrong.
But in the press release, ESL did say he's hosting both the finals.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's 100% correct, but yeah, I think it is. And maybe your thoughts, Furndog, as someone who hasn't played this split. Do you think ESL, how they've handled the, the hosting side and things like that? Have you been impressed?
I think they're definitely making the right moves, and I think they've got people in place, or they've changed the people that were in place to make the decisions around what they do and the way they do it. For instance, someone I know quite well, Ryan Barnetto, worked with him on XL. He's someone who is quite passionate about the scene, knows a lot about the scene, has spent a lot of time getting close to various players and learning the way they think. And I think having someone like that on the side, it has definite problems with fans, but he is someone who knows the way the players think and what teams need, and I think that's very important when you're considering creating tournaments, being part of a tournament. It is knowing the players' perspective and the team's perspective, as well as how you feel the tournament should be run, and so on and so forth. And I think he's definitely got an input, and that's one that I think should be valued, and it's the right steps forward the ESL's taken. And Machine, I'm sure, I don't know a huge amount about the guy. I know he's done a lot of CS:GO stuff, but maybe not so much League of Legends stuff. But I think the principle is that he's somebody who's very experienced and has been in the spotlight a lot of the time, and this is only good for League of Legends in the UK, I think.
Yeah. Do you guys think if whoever wins can make it through to the Challenger Series?
I think that depends on who else makes it through, because I think the Challenger Series qualifiers vary in quality quite highly sometimes. They're like, obviously, like you look at this split, you have teams like Fnac Academy with a lot of good players, and they're backed by an LCS org who knows what they're doing. And then on the other end of the spectrum, there are like teams with much less infrastructure. So, I think potentially, but it's never easy to make it to Challenger Series from a regional league. The step up's quite hard. Obviously, like if say we were to win, I would be looking to do that, but it's I think it would be quite cocky to just think that you could sort of do that, even if we won the finals, that XENEX could do what we did in the UK scene in Challenger Series qualifiers.
There's a huge amount of infrastructure in other scenes now that are Riot backed or funded by external kind of influencers that I personally feel it's quite difficult for a UK team to actually make the most of their spot if they're going to keep the roster and they're going to go with regards to playing it. This is maybe something that needs to be looked at in the future or as soon as possible, I guess. But I think a lot of the organisations feel it's much more worth to sell the spot and that kind of thing, and try and get monetary value out of the winning, than actually being able to compete against teams that are getting paid full-time salaries to do exactly the same thing.
It's a shame in a way, for me, from a neutral and journalist perspective. I mean, I can't blame the orgs or the players for wanting to sell spots or change rosters up, but it is a shame for me to see what happened with MnM, and it was, as I understand it, there was an agreement in place before the final, before the split, that the players would own the spot for the Challenger Series qualifiers if they won. And they did win, then they looked for different investors, changed the roster, and it all collapsed. I actually think they could have done better in the Challenger Series qualifiers if they'd stuck together under MnM, because they had the cohesion and everything. From a neutral perspective, it'd be nice to see that. Rifty, what are your thoughts on getting through? Do you think if you guys get through, you'll stick around this time and maybe able to qualify?
Oh God, no! God, no! Like anything to do with the UK scene, like this scene will never grow because we just physically don't have the infrastructure that other scenes have. Like, for example, in Spanish scene, right?
Yeah.
You've got not even the top tier teams, the lower tier teams, the teams in second division, all this. They've all got houses and coaches and analysts and all this bollocks. Like. We've got none of that here. You know what I mean?
course.
Like, we don't even have a coach, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how you expect
that
to
pretty
go
much-
anywhere like that with it, you know?
That pretty much says it all. That the two top teams pretty much have had no coaches for the entirety of the split.
Yeah,
We've just got one. You don't have one apparently. So
No coaches, or like half the players are working or in uni. We're not
Yeah.
like full time in a gaming house. You know, like it's just it's not gonna happen. You know, you get like mate. You know, like, but no, it's it'd be nice. Like one of the seasons, ESL was talking about putting the winner up in a gaming house and stuff like that, and doing this whole documentary on them. I think it was to do with Banditos. You know.
Yeah.
And that sort of stuff would be nice to see, but it isn't going to happen, you know? Like,
well, not unless there's enough interest to warrant the investment. But you look at the Spanish scene, and
at this rate.
the Spanish scene gets 15,000 viewers when I tune in,
on
quite-
a regular basis.
on a regular
each
basis
week,
without and we need like what IEM to host us to get even close to those numbers. And
And,
it was
what
quite
game did they host? The terrible one? No
yeah.
Flame, but like the lower tier teams, you know?
That's the other thing. The hosting from ESL, the split has been, I think, quite poor in that, like, so MnM versus XENEX wasn't streamed. Was MnM versus XL streamed? I think it was on the main stream.
None of them was hosted near IEM or anything like that. I think at most we got like a few hundred viewers, you know?
Yeah, but
the thing is, like with regards to the scene, sorry, just kind of skipping your point to an extent, is that both scenes started off with nothing. Of course, the Spanish scene, for as an example, because I know a fair bit about it now, being in it myself, has grown at a much faster or significant rate than the UK scene. And now, because it doesn't necessarily mean the UK scene now needs to grow, because there can be a mass exodus of the best talent to these other scenes, and that's a real shame for the UK scene. And I think that's something that makes it difficult for the UK scene to develop, because other scenes are already developed. For instance, I guess I can kind of use myself as an example. I learnt my trade myself, and I was on challenger teams and so on and so forth. But then I went to the UK scene, which was fairly well structured, quote unquote. There was teams, there was a league, so on and so forth, and I learned a lot of my trade. And then I was approached or headhunted, or whatever you want to call it, by G2 Vodafone. And why would I? There was nothing to really. I'd finished uni. I had no real home commitments. So what would stop me being paid a full-time salary, living in a gaming house, doing what I love for a living? And so on and so forth, or I could have just stayed with XL, and that was my other option: stay with XL and coach them through the split. But realistically, it's like career progression in anything, and I think you may actually see a lot more of this in the UK and other scenes, like players being taken from the UK scene, like the very top talent, to Spain or to other regions that are going to pay full-time salaries, and there'll be an exodus of the top talent, which is a shame.
Well, I've just done an interview today with Gfinity. I know Gfinity don't really do anything in League of Legends, but they've got this Elite Series and Challenger Series they've set up where lower tier amateur orgs and players take place in the Challenger Series. And then they go up the rankings, and then the ones that near the top of the rankings get picked up by top 8 sort of good global teams, 8 global teams. Then they play in the Elite Series. And when that happens, Gfinity pay the amateur org a fee for taking their player. So although they're losing their player, a good player, they're getting money for it. And I think that's quite good. You know, we might see more of that in the future. I think if it works, you know, you can bet Gfinity will be doing it in loads of games, right? So
yeah.
But one thing I don't get, guys, is why people don't care in the UK. Look, when we had the World's quarterfinals year and a half ago in Wembley, it sold out. Like, I think within days it sold out. So there is a League of Legends fan base here, but they just don't care about the amateur leagues. And I find it a bit confusing because Maxlaw came from this league and Alfari came from this league, and people can laugh at me and things like that, but they practiced and played in this league, and now they're in the top in the LCS. So why don't people care about it? I find it a bit confusing.
I think the thing is not that people don't care, but that people don't know about it. because like I didn't know that the UK scene existed until I was literally contacted to ask to play for a team, and I was like, this was back in season 3 so I was Diamond 1 at the time. So like if even the like high elo UK player, like if I know at the time I was 400 league points, so I was like quite high up back then, and I'm a UK player, and even I don't know there's a scene. So back then there was definitely people playing in the scene who I was better than, who I could have taken the role of. Like how many AD carries are there in the UK that are like over 400 league points? Like in season 3, like not many. I guess it was probably Toaster was playing back then. Like I think Sir Scott was. Like I'm trying to remember 80 carries back when I first joined the scene.
We're going back a long time ago.
Yeah,
like Sir Scott and Chewed Up and all that.
Yeah,
you know,
like back when it was FM Infuse and Choke. Like
most of the players that are now Heroes of the Storm players. You know, like
Subtomic.
Subtomic, yeah.
He's a rapper, not a rapper. He's a music man, isn't he? These days.
He's a rapper now.
There's
like,
no advertising to do with the UK league. Like
I'm sitting there as a UK national player, like top 300 on the ladder, 80 carry, and I literally don't know until FM contact me and say, "There's a LAN coming up. Do you want to play for us?" And I'm like, "What's a LAN?" You know, like if players like that don't know, why are the like silver, bronze, gold sort of the majority of the community who would actually like get involved and actually engage with the league? Because obviously it's not the highest quality, it's not as good as LCS, but people don't watch LCS for high quality gameplay. They watch to support a team. And if you look at like Spanish league, Turkish league, the teams are quite, I think fanatical is a bit of an overuse of the word, but they're quite devoted to following the scene because they have a lot of national pride. And I think
it goes without saying, to be honest, with some of those leagues.
But I think that the thing is, like, no, the UK. I think UK people would watch the UK league and get involved, but they don't know it exists. So there's no engagement.
Another example is like the engagement. While talking about the engagement with fans, is for instance, the LVP flew every single team to Tenerife from Spain. For the opening week of the Superliga, which is their equivalent to the ESL Prem. They flew all the teams there, and they put them up in a hotel. All the coaches and so on and so forth, managers, put them up in a big hotel, and then the event was in Tenerife, and we were there for 4 or 5 days. And fans are really, really super engaged with the league. For instance, we flew at 4 a.m. or something, maybe 5 a.m. from Madrid to Tenerife, and there was people there when we were checking in that were wanting photos with the players, and photos with me, and photos with the team, and we were also walking around Tenerife as a team, just generally, like we were going out to eat as a team together and things, and there was fans, there was people that obviously were there for the event, but it wasn't an organised meet or anything, but they came up to the players, they wanted pictures with the players, and the players are treated like professionals because it is their profession. They're being paid to do this on a full-time basis, and as a result, they're treated as professionals, and people admire that. And but equally, the players themselves realize that they have to act like professionals. So there's a different mentality. Okay, maybe not in solo queue, but generally.
Yeah, you've never seen Smiley's Twitter, have you? Like,
I know Smiley.
I think that doesn't apply to everyone.
but I mean, with regards to when he's around people that support Baskonia, for instance. Anyone who doesn't know, Smiley's now formerly on MnM, now on Baskonia, which is the top team or expected to be the top team in Spain. A massive basketball organisation, I believe, that pays players in excess of roughly 1,200 euros a month.
Compare scenes, Christ, the support that Baskonia and Keith give to their teams compared to the UK scene.
And every LVP set up a fan meet with all the at the event, and there's about a couple hundred people queuing to get signatures with all the players, and that's where we're at really with the regards to differences.
I think marketing is a key point you mentioned, Rifty, because I know someone who's in a UK org, and the org actually spent money on Twitter to do marketing, and the org.
Well, like buying followers or. What do you mean?
So you can pay Twitter to get promoted tweets.
Oh, the promoted stuff.
And it actually got them some fans and stuff. So
if it works, it works. I'd like to see more not necessarily the orgs themselves, but the event holders, the event organisers promote the events more. You know what I mean? Like it'd be nice to see them work more with the orgs to get names out there and stuff. But like, honestly, I don't ever see the UK scene being anything more than a part-time hobby for people. You know what I mean? Like it's where a lot of players just sort of play because it's a bit of fun, maybe can make some money. It's not a serious scene by any means.
Sinil EU West on the stream has said, do players engage with the fans in Spain?
Yeah, I definitely think so. There's not necessarily the players doing it out of choice, but it's the organisations and the league that set things up where you don't have much choice, and that's part of your job as a professional player. Like I said, there's organised fan meets at events like the Tenerife event I was talking about, but then with a lot of these organisations, they've got set sponsors. So just the shameless pun, like ours is HyperX, and we've got many others, but the reason I said HyperX is because they're setting up something where they're selling their products through game, and we're meeting various fans, telling them about our use of the products in game stores and things like that, which kind of brings a closer feel, or more realistic feel between like the people who support the scene and the players themselves, and they're not just like keyboard warriors in their bedrooms at home, I guess.
Yeah.
That's the main issue. It's really hard for a fan to follow the scene. Like you have to be in it to follow it, really.
Yeah, and realistically, lots of the viewers are parts of the organisations, or past players, or current players, or these kind of things. Not people that have never actually had a direct involvement with the scene. I mean,
I only know like one person who watches the scene who is not involved. I met at university who knew who I was, and that was like the big what? Someone watches the UK? Like, why do you watch? You don't play in the UK scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Riot could probably do something. I don't really understand why they don't sort of promote the structure towards Challenger Series qualifier more, because just not the UK scene, but all of the regional leagues,
grassroots in general.
No one knows that the Challenger Series qualifier teams are the one from EUNE, the 3 from EU West, and then there's the 6 regional teams. Like, why do Riot not make it apparent that these 6 regional leagues exist and promote them? It wouldn't be hard for them. They have the resources to do so.
I think it should be more like the FA in football, right? That kind of adopt a grassroots, like bottom-up approach, where they work from the bottom and they're trying to bring the very best to like reach the top, but they're starting from the bottom. They're not starting at the top and like building it downwards. And I think that's maybe a difference in approach that they could take.
Yeah.
Because even like in football, you mentioned the Premier League in England is, even if only very loosely, connected to, the second, third, etc. divisions.
Yeah.
It's all, you can theoretically, although it's obviously not something that happens often or quite commonly. It takes a lot of time if something like that were to happen. They are connected, and it is well known how. Because, that's the main thing, is if you see a viewer come in, if we're on the front page of Twitch, drop into the stream, quite often in the use case, like, what elo are the players, like, what am I watching? And it's just strange that people don't understand what the regional scenes are unless they already know, or someone tells them. Because I don't think it would be hard for it to advertise the fact that you have LCS, then Challenger, and then under Challenger you have the qualifiers, which you can solo queue, you can do the open tournament, or you can compete in the regional leagues, and it directly follows on one down from the other, but people have no idea that these scenes exist, unless, like, I guess it's different in Spain and Turkey and Russia, because they have quite large followings, but
even if Riot put a box up on the rankings page, that all the top players will be looking in EU West will be on there, on that rankings page. Why don't they just have a little box that says, are you thinking of joining a team, or info on regional leagues, or even like a tab, a column next to the gamer tag of the team that person plays for, or something. That might be difficult to implement, but you know what I mean. They could put something on that page, right? So people who are looking at the top players will instantly know, oh look, there's teams I can join here. How can I join a team? Things like that.
Yeah. There's a huge amount about the differences between the scenes and why they're slightly different and things. I think again, the contracts is another thing, and that's something that Riot implements into the Spanish league. Again, I'm talking a lot about the Spanish league, but it's what I have most current experience with. And before coming here, I didn't know the differences really between UK scene and Spanish scene directly, but Riot implements the same contracts to the League of Legends players in Spain as they do in the LCS. So it's somewhat like a grassroots funding or a preparation for kind of reaching something higher. And that's where everyone in LVP is aiming right now, to reach that higher or to be the top of the LVP. But it's very much structured around what the top is like. So it's like real good preparation, whereas we definitely don't have any of that in the UK scene, and that's why we see a lot of drama and the roster swaps and teams not disrespecting others and so on and so forth, historically speaking.
Do you think it's the actions of the players and some of the teams that have put potentially organisers off putting that support into UK scene?
I don't know, really. I'm not sure why the support hasn't come for the UK scene that it has for others. I don't know if I can answer that question really. I'm not sure exactly the point where Riot, when looking at the scene, has decided to really put investment into some and not into others. And I'm not even necessarily talking kind of monetary investment, but just their attention and their detail investment as well.
Yeah. Guys, listen, we've been chatting for just over an hour now, so I think it might be a good time to wrap up. Is there any more points you guys want to make or anything you want to add ahead of the finals next weekend?
I don't think so.
No, may the better team win, I suppose.
Yeah, I think for me it's definitely that I hope MnM, like Rifty said, they haven't got much practice in, but hopefully they can get a lot of practice in between now and then. And same with XENEX, and then we should see the best quality that we can actually hope for, which should be really impressive. And both teams deserve their time in the spotlight, I think.
I mean, I'm just glad that it's two good orgs making it to the finals, because like I don't know if you agree, Rifty, but as an ex-MnM player, I think Cal does possibly the best job I've seen of any org owner to actually like try and be a good org owner.
So nice.
He's compared to some of like the other orgs I've been on, the attention he puts into his teams and the actual work he tries to put in to actually, maybe not professional is a weird word to say to Cal, but in some areas he tries to be very professional and he tries to be very player centric and do what's best for players while also trying to grow his org. And I think XENEX are possibly the obviously I've never been to a LAN with them, so I have less to contrast with, but I think XENEX again are like compared to, let's say, Perilous, you know what's happened with Perilous, but yeah, I think I'm just glad that the two orgs that get to go are quite I guess orgs that I feel deserve to go.
Cool. Yep. All right, well, thanks again very much, guys. I will put this video out as well on YouTube so everyone can see it from there and review it, so I should get a few more eyeballs before the finals next week. Good luck. I'll probably do a couple of articles based on a few of the things that have been mentioned today, just on your performances, your predictions for the final and things like that. But good luck in the finals, guys, and once again thank you all for taking the time to speak today.
No,
thank you for having us,
Dom.
Much appreciated.
Thanks
It's
for having
always
me
a
on.
pleasure talking to you, mate.
Oh, anytime. Thank you. All right, I'll see you guys real soon.
In a
Thank
bit,
you.
mate.
Bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye-bye. Okay, yeah, thanks for watching, guys. They're all gone now, so like I say, I'll put this video up on YouTube, and please do subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter at eSports_news_UK, and please do follow us on Twitch as well, because I want to be doing more of these discussion shows during the split. I think we'll probably try and do one every week at the end of the week, and get some live interviews on here as well. I've interviewed a few people over video before, and it'd be good to do some live things in the future as well like this. So I really hope you enjoyed it. Give me feedback if you thought it was rubbish, if you thought it was good, if you thought it was just okay, what we can work on, what we can improve on. I'm always happy to listen because my background's in written journalism, it's not video. So please do give me feedback and I'll definitely take it on board. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.